Spirittrap, Part 1, The End's Beginning, April 30th, 2017. The room shook with what felt like the force of a magnitude 6 earthquake. The once orderly racks and shelves of research computers, hard drives, servers, and other electronic data processing equipment now creaked, snapped, and twisted violently to the point of exploding into shards of hard plastic, bits of glass, transistors, and copper wiring. The wrought iron shelves began to buckle and pull away from the wall with such force the tiny silver mounting screws and washers shot out of their holes with the velocity of .22 caliber bullets on a battlefield, ricocheting off the tumbling and shaking laboratory furniture that was now loose, taking flight and getting sucked in. The office chairs rolled on their little black plastic casters from one side of the room to the other and back again, slamming into one another like bumper cars at the state fair, then tumbling, somersaulting, end over end, catching air, and getting sucked in. The atmosphere in the room was now highly charged with the blue snaps of heavy static electric discharge, coupled by the intermittent green bolts of electrified plasma zapping furiously and indiscriminately. The air was permeated with a grayish-white smoke, and everywhere there was the unmistakable smell of burnt plastic. Everything was being sucked in. Dr. Kerrigan lay face down, pressing her body so tightly to the debris-scattered floor she was almost becoming one with it, her arms and hands tightly crossed, covering her now graying auburn ringlets and face defensively. Her sweat was so thick on her forehead, it was flooding her eyes with stinging salt. She kept trying to shake her head and move her eyelids so as to shake off the sting without unsecuring her hands and arms from shielding her face. Between the small, split-second breaks in the chaos, she slid on her belly slowly, methodically, trying to ignore the needle-like debris slashing into her chest, abdomen, and kneecaps. Not only could she feel her clothing tearing, she felt her skin tearing with it. She'd stop, look up and ahead, slide forward, head back down, cover, repeating the process over and over, 1 millimeter at a time, one seemingly infinite, excruciating second at a time. She knows all too well how incredibly dangerous and urgent the situation is. Dr. Noreen Kerrigan also knows something else. In the initial blast, she remembers she felt some type of projectile penetrate her lower abdomen. There was a pop, and then she went down like a sack of cement. She realized she must have passed out for a few seconds, and when she came to, it was all this. Yes, Dr. Noreen Kerrigan knew she was dying, bleeding to death most likely. Not from the multitude of external punctures, cuts, and scrapes, but something deeply internal. She also knew if she did nothing else before she departed this earthly realm, she would make damn sure she shut it off. It had to be shut off. It had to be stopped. He had to be stopped. Her body now completely numb with adrenaline, Dr. Kerrigan lifted her head, arched it back as far as she could, and pushed herself up with her left arm. She quickly wiped away the stinging sweat and her thick, debris-covered hair from her eyes with her bloody right hand and squinted in an attempt to get her forward bearings. That's when she saw it, in the distance, not more than 2 yards from where she was. Through the thick haze of white smoke and snaps of electricity, the soft, circular red glow of the machine's power switch. This vision flashed her back momentarily to the day she first laid eyes on that tiny switch. She remembers thinking to herself, wondering how such a small, unassuming switch could command such a powerful device. This world-changing miracle machine that quite possibly held the answers to every question the human race has ever had about anything and everything. No, it should be larger, she thought. I'll bring it up to him later. She never did, however, as there always seemed to be some other, more pressing issues to deal with. Now the thought struck her funny, and she almost felt like chuckling for a second. Immediately, she snaps forward, back into the present, back to the scathing truth. She realizes this tiny red button has, in actuality, done nothing but release the most unimaginable hell on earth. And now, because of this switch, her closest friends and most of her colleagues, as well as the love of her life, are dead. With the sheer burning and seething anger from the past year's events festering in her mind and soul, she focuses it all into a concentrated willpower, one last tidal wave of personal strength, and lunges forward toward that very switch. In her mind, she almost feels calm, detached, but she knows somehow she is screaming. She knows it's her voice, but it feels like someone outside of her, outside her own body, like another person. But it is, in fact, Dr. Kerrigan, and she does, in fact, know this. She props herself shakily up on her left knee. She feels the razor-sharp blades of glass grind deeper into her already shredded kneecap, but understands the pain is so unimportant now. She stretches her right arm out so far it hurts, a sharp, stinging sensation all the way from her elbow to her shoulder socket. With her right ankle, she pushes her right calf up and forward, and just as she's about to make it, just as she's about to fulfill this last dying mission and flip that switch into the down position, it grabs her and pulls her violently backward by the very same right calf she had placed so much faith and hope upon. In the same moment, she's realizing it's a hand, a very large, masculine hand, with a grip like a vice. Noreen's whole body slaps forward violently back onto the cold, white, debris-scattered floor, knocking the wind from her gut. Her chin slams against the tile with such velocity, she feels her front teeth shatter inside her mouth, severely cutting the flesh of the inside of her lips. Now dazed, her heart beating so fast, yet sinking at the same time at the possibility of her completely failing, jumps to the forefront of her thoughts. With a chill of fear so deep and primordial inside her, it makes every fiber of her being shudder and every hair stand on end. She musters up the courage to slowly, shakily turn her head back and identify her interloper. As her eyes fix on the face at her feet, her worst fear is confirmed. It is him.